All right, today is January 13, 2022. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public recorded and posted on YouTube. We have our agenda listed on the screen here. Feel free to go ahead and add any suggestions to it as we go through it. First up, we're going to go through the 124 planning. The 124 release is underway. We did planning for 124 in December. The upcoming dates to be aware of for 124. Next up is on the 27th, there is a production readiness soft freeze. What this means is that if you have a feature that needs to go into the 124 release, any KEP that you have must get production approval a little bit, I think a week before the actual enhancement freeze date. So please keep an eye on that. And Jesse, I see you're adding a couple items here. You wanna comment on that?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, hi. So I'm Jesse Butler. I'm one of the release lead shadows for 124. And we're just trying to jump into some SIG meetings and introduce ourselves and say, hey, and do exactly what you've done here. So it looks like you've got it well in hand. I just did add that extra in week 11, we have a feature blog freeze to keep in mind as well, which is not sure. I mean, I think you're all very aware and very active there, but this has been an opt-in part of the cycle for the last few releases. So just as with KEPs, for week 11, the deadline for opting in feature blogs happens. So,
hey, Jesse, so basically that means that's the deadline for adding an entry into a spreadsheet while you are tracking the blocks, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly right. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the authoring and review comes later than that. Exactly right.
Cool. Thank you, Jesse, for that reminder. And that's right, folks. So here's the full schedule. Good to remember that there's also a option to have published blogs for the features that we have. And if you want to do that, please make sure you add to that spreadsheet that tracks this by the 23rd. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and switch over to the spreadsheet that we use for tracking our work, and we'll go over the 124 items and get status updates. All right, so first item here is delete FS group, or sorry, delegate FS group to CSI driver instead of kubelet. Chang was presumably on this, but I'm not sure we can actually commit him. Michelle, do you know who might be working on this?
Sorry, which one was this?
This is delegate FS group to CSI driver instead of kubelet, including end-to-end test update.
I don't know if we have a dev lead for this release cycle.
Got it.
Also the feature just went beta in last release. We cannot move GA in this release, I think, right? There has to be a gap between beta and GA.
That's reasonable. So let's hold off on this until the 125 release. I'm going to go ahead and cross it off.
Yeah.
It's 2022, not 21.
Oh, good reminder. Thank you.
I do the same things myself.
It'll be a few months of this. All right. Go ahead and mark that off.
And my apologies for mispronouncing your name. There's no I in it. It's just Saad, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. No worries.
My apologies.
I am remembering how to use Sheets again. So here we go. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving. CSI, online, offline resizing, volume expansion, update KEP, and fix issues. Hemant, any updates on that?
Yeah, so we have landed the recovery to alpha and we applied it the next item to beta, and I think that this would be the right time to move expansion as a whole to GA. So that's something I want to try in this release, and there's one or two outstanding issues that will fix and move the expansion to GA as a whole. I am planning to set up some calls next week to discuss if anybody has any other outstanding issues apart from recovery, and one more issue about read-write many volume types. But yeah, those are two things I'm aware of, and we have solutions for them. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Hemant. And for folks on the call, remember that if you are using volume expansion, it's currently in beta. And if you have any major issues with it, any concerns before we move it to GA, please try and attend these meetings that Hemant's going to organize to raise any of your concerns. Otherwise, it is going to get moved to GA as is, other than the couple of known issues. Thanks, Hemant. Next item is recovering from resize failure. I assume this is tied to the related, or are we still moving these independently?
Yeah, this will move independently because we don't want to block like resizing as a whole going GA for this, because as long as, like, the thinking was, as long as you just have a way to recover it, it's fine. So we do have a way now. So we want to move the recovery feature to beta in 124 while moving the resizing as a whole to GA.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. Thank you for that, Hemant. Next item is issues related to assuming volumes or mount points. I think we haven't had an update on this for a while. Does anyone have a status update on this, or not? Do we still want to commit to this for the 124 release? Sheng, Jan, Michelle, do we want to commit to this for 124?
I should check with Jean. I don't know what is the status of this.
Okay. I'll take a note, and then hopefully we can get input from Jing. And I assume same thing for the next item. All right, next item is CSI ephemeral volumes. And that is moving from beta to GA. Jan will check with Jonathan or Matt on this, was the last status update. Jan, did you get an opportunity to check with either of them?
Yeah, I checked with Jonathan and Matt. We didn't do much progress. I'm meeting Jonathan tomorrow, actually, about this, because some CSI drivers started implementing ephemeral volumes for persistent storage, which is kind of dangerous and it may not be secure. And our solution in our cap, we assume that we will use the same as pod security policy does for flex volumes. But pod security policy is gone. And now we need to decide if we want to have some alternative in the new security framework, or kind of silently expect that all ephemeral volumes are safe.
Got it.
So right now we have CSI drivers that are not safe. So my vote would be to have some policy around it. But sick of, oh, Jordan doesn't like that.
Got it. All right, so it sounds like next steps here are to figure out how these ephemeral volumes are going to play with security, and given pod security policies going away. And it sounds like you have a meeting with Jonathan to discuss that soon. So progress being made. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you, Jan. Moving on, next item is the volume group API design for this cycle. Ying, any updates on this one?
Yeah, I think still design. On that 24.
Okay. And next item is CSI out of tree, move iSCSI, driver fit and finish, image building testing, CI/CD, documentation, etc. I think this was a carryover from last cycle. Anyone have an update on this? I don't think Humble is able to join the call.
I know that he is trying to cut a release for this repo.
Got it. So I think that would indicate we're close to completion.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and next item is moving Samba SIF CSI driver to GA. This should help with the flex volume deprecation as well. Andy, Julie, Michelle, anyone have an update on this? I guess then the next question is, do we want to commit to Samba SIFs to GA for this cycle, given we haven't had an update on this for a while either?
I think we can circle back with Julie and confirm.
Okay, sounds good. Check with Julie if all right, moving on. Next item is PVC volume snapshot namespace transfer. Do we have Mustafa on the call?
So I pinned him after last meeting, and he said he needs some help. So I was suggesting maybe Masaki could work with him on this. I have not got a chance to check with Masaki. It looks like he's not on the call today.
Got it. Okay. Next item is CSI volume health, additional metrics and or events. This is moving from alpha to alpha 2. Last status was we needed code review on this. Anyone have an update on that?
Right. So yeah, so Haman has already reviewed that. So right now, basically, we need to get people from SIG Instrumentation, SIG Node to review it for that to be merged.
I think there was a review from SIG Instrumentation yesterday, and there's some feedback on the PR.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, thanks. And I'll ask Ren to address the comments then.
Cool. Sounds like we're making good progress there. Next item is CSI volume health programmatic response. This is a design for this cycle. I think last status was check with Nick if he wants to do a prototype. Did we get a chance to do that?
So I checked with him. He said after the Chinese New Year, then his team should have someone who have some time to look into this. So
Got it.
Him again after the Chinese New Year.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Sheng. Next item is volume populator data source. Ben, are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, this one missed the beta, and we're going to go beta in 124. You may want to add that the work to be done is to add metric support and testing.
Got it.
And do we need to add a metrics in the in-tree controller, or is this a in the out of tree repo only?
The volume data source validator controller, which is an out of tree controller, will have metrics, and the library for supporting populators will have support for metrics. Although being a library, the consuming application will need to do a little bit of glue. So there'll be metric support in the library, but there'll be work for
Okay, so
actual
those are out
populators
of
to do.
tree, right? I was just thinking about like,
Yeah, it's
one more
all,
time
both
for
of those are
that.
out of tree.
Okay,
But the if you read the KEP, there's very good reasons for all the metrics that are proposed there. So I don't think we can
okay.
live without them.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Cool. Sounds like we need some production readiness stuff here to get it to beta, and that's going to be in
Yes.
progress this cycle. Thank you, Ben. Next item is Object Storage API Cozy. This is hopefully moving from a prototype to an alpha this cycle. Anyone have an update on this?
I think we're just waiting for reviews. I see Michelle have added some comment there.
Got it. That makes sense. All right. Hopefully we'll make good progress on this soon. Moving on to change block tracking. This is a design for this cycle. Any updates on this?
I think it's still going to be a design. I have not got an update from fun of this one.
Okay. Mark that as no update for this cycle. Next item is runtime assisted mounts. Deep. I know this is a back and forth with SIG Arch. How are things going?
Yeah, so based on our last discussions, I have a fairly newish design. So this new design, I'm just updating the KEP with it, and then we'll queue up in the SIG Arch discussions. The advantages of this new design is that it avoids many of the CRI change, like any of the CRI changes, any PO changes. So it's, I think, is much cleaner. And yeah, as soon as I update the KEP, maybe someone like Jan can do another review. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for following up on that and trying to find a way to get this through without any major disruptions. So next item is CSI proxy for Windows transition to privileged containers. Do we have Mauricio on the line today?
So Mauricio published a proposal for this, and it's looking pretty good. Probably reach an alpha this cycle.
Awesome. Good news. Cool. Thank you, Deep. I'm going to mark that as started. All right, next item is node expansion secret. Humble will submit a KEP was the update for this cycle. Anybody knows if there's any progress here?
So he just says he's going to be working on a KEP. So there is an enhancement issue. So he is going to work on this in 1.24. So
cool, sounds good. Thank you, Sheng. And then the next items are already complete, so we're going to skip over those for this review. Jump to CSI core, CSI migration core. I don't know if Jiawei is able to join the meeting, or if anyone has an update on the status of CSI migration. I know Jiawei has been holding those Friday meetings. Anyone able to attend and get an update? Okay, I'm going to mark that as no update for now, and then hopefully we can get another update from Jiawei soon.
So I know Jiawei, he has opened several KEPs, a KEP for each cloud provider.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do wonder if there's any common work that needs to be done in the core. And if not, we can remove item 24 and just keep the rest of these. Okay, so with that, let's get the per cloud provider specific CSI migration upgrades or updates. So first up is vSphere. Anyone have a status update on that?
I think it's just the cap that Joey just opened that one.
Got it.
That's approved. We're basically just waiting for production readiness side, but from our side, I think Michelle approved it. Yeah, just trying to turn on by default in this release. There are a couple of issues we're working on it.
Awesome. Thank you, Xing, for that update. Next up, Azure Disk or Azure File. Anyone have an update on either of those? Michelle, have you had a chance to talk to Andy recently?
I believe he's targeting GA for Azure Disk and on by default for Azure File.
Got it. Okay. LGTM. Next is GCE. I don't know if Matt's on the line. If not, Michelle, do you happen to have an update for the GCE side?
I think it target GA. I think AWS is also target GA, but I think we should double confirm with Matt Wong on that.
Okay. And then we have OpenStack also targeting GA. Supposedly DIMS is owning this. Anybody have confirmation?
Yeah, so he actually already submitted a PR. The PR is already merged. So what are the other things other than the PR, is it just a documentation remaining? Michelle Young, do you know? What else do we need to do for this? It basically just a feature gate.
I think yeah, it's documentation and release notes. That's my understanding. I don't think there's anything else. I assume there's already tests in place.
Yeah, that should be there already, right?
Okay. So I'll put remaining work, docs, and release notes. Good progress. DIMS is on it. All right, next up we have Ceph RBD and Ceph FS. Both of them are owned by Humble at this point, targeting beta. I don't believe we have an update on this. So we'll keep moving. Next up is CSI migration for Portworx. Does anyone have an update on this? Okay, hopefully we can get someone from Portworx to confirm if they're planning to target beta this cycle. All right, moving on from CSI migration. Next item is always honor reclaim policy.
Yeah, I'm yet to update the cap. I'll probably do it next week. But I think yeah, and we are in agreement of what changes we need for 1.2.
Got it. So spoke to Jan, agreed on changes. We'll update KEP accordingly. Cool. Thank you, Deepak. Next item is control volume mode conversion between source and target PVCs. Targeting alpha this cycle.
So Ronak is working on a cap targeting alpha. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Xing. Next couple items are owned by Masaki, secret protection and in-use protection. Anyone know if there is progress made here?
I've not seen him. So probably since I'll ping him for this the one transfer, maybe I'll ask him about this one as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Shing. Oops. All right, next item is co-owned between us and SIG auth. The item is user ID ownership and config maps and secrets preserve default file mode bits, bit set in atomic writer volumes. And owner is Abhishek. Any updates on this? Looks like we haven't had a status update for a while. Okay, let's see if we get confirmation on if we actually need this still. Looks like we haven't had an update for a while. Next item is ungraceful node shutdown. Anyone have an update on this? Still targeting alpha?
Yeah, so we are basically the cap is being reviewed, trying to target alpha in 1.24.
Cool. And then you have with Signate enable username spaces in kubelets or UIDs get shifted rootless mode. I don't believe we have an owner for this. In alpha in 124, 3 phases. Hamad, do you know if there's someone committed to this yet?
No, I don't know. I haven't taken a look at it recently.
Okay.
Oh, is this the username space one?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So for that one, I think like there isn't going to be much storage interactions in their phase one. I think it's more like phase 2 or 3 when they would get to actually handling pods with PVCs that does not that actually refers to like real volumes.
Got it. And do you know if that's going to happen as part of 124 or a subsequent release?
So it's just going to be phase 1 in 124. So that'll be
Got it. Okay. So we should be able to move this out. 124 will be phase 1 only. Phase 2, 3 will require phase 2 or 3. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and remove this from our 124 list. Thank you, Deep, for that update. Next up, we have a few items co-owned between us and SIG apps. First up is address issues with PVCs created by stateful set not being auto-removed. Any update on that? Okay, sounds like we need to check with Matt on status for this item. Next is volume expansion for stateful sets.
Yeah, so sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just about to say that I have started reviewing it and I should have a review done by this week. And then, yeah, we can move on to. I don't know if Shalini is still working on it, right?
Yeah, she wanted to move this to alpha in 1.24. So just if we started review, that would be great. Yeah, we need reviews. So
awesome. Thank you both for that update, Hemant and Shing. Good that this is on track. I'm going to mark this as started. Oops. All right, next item is execution hook. It's going to be a design for this cycle.
Yeah, most likely. I talked to Xiangqian, but we have not really, because we need to resolve a few remaining issues. Not sure if we have time to get that resolved before the
Makes
deadline.
sense.
So I'll just keep it at design for now.
Okay, let's keep it as a stretch goal for now. Next item is SE Linux relabeling using mount options. And Jan will work on this. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't started yet. I will start soon.
Okay, sounds good. And the last item we have here is determine mount points without relying on proc mounts. Anyone have a status update on that?
Yes, so right now there's a PR. First, we want to merge in the MAURICIO repo, and the PR is already being reviewed by Yang and another person, like probably something. He is, I think, mostly working on that repo, and just want to get his final approval. I think he said last time he said it's almost good. Just need to merge the commits, and I'm pinging him to give the final. Yeah.
Awesome, good progress. Thank you, Jing. And since we have you here, Jing, there was a couple items that we needed status updates from you on. Let me see if we can go back and grab those. Let's see here. Okay, so these two items here. First is issues related to assuming volumes are mount points.
So yeah, I'm still like in the process of working on that. No new updates yet.
Okay, are you going to be driving this, or is someone else going to be driving this and you're going to review?
Right now, no, only me, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Jing plans to drive this. Okay, I'm going to put you as primary here. And then second item is mount-related issues, perf, etc. This was moved from last cycle. Is that still something that we plan to commit to?
I think it is. We can combine this with the last item, like
Got it.
last amount. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. To combine this with.
No, the last the one that is we just talked about.
Right. Yep. The issues related to assuming volumes are mount point.
No, the one. I mean the one in the last item. The bottom. Yeah, this one.
This one. Got it. Okay. Got it. So this is, and I'll just go ahead and remove this, and we can stop tracking this one moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. And let me see if there was anything else for you, Jing, since we have you here today. Nope, that was it. Thank you, Jing.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and switch back to our agenda and see what else we have. Jesse, you want to comment on this opt-in 124 blog tracking, or I think we've already talked about it a little bit?
Yeah, I think that was, I just wanted to put the link in there for y'all.
Perfect.
That's what we talked about. Yep.
Cool, thank you. And looks like we have no PRs to discuss, no designs to review today. Miscellaneous, Michelle, cloning to a different storage class discussion ongoing. Michelle, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so this was an issue that Matt had hit when trying to implement cloning for the pvcsi driver. And so I think we wanted to bring this up and start a discussion to see if this is something sort of relaxing the storage class constraint is something that we can consider, and also to see if we need to do any changes in CSI to be able to support it. But yeah, to I guess summarize the issue right now. When you clone a volume, it requires that the source PVC and the new PVC be of the same storage class. And in some cases that makes a lot of sense. Like if in one storage class you might have some parameters that are incompatible with the parameters of your target storage class. I think originally there were examples like the FS type might be different. There might be other parameters like that are incompatible. But I guess the flip side is in some other cases that the two storage classes are actually compatible. So I think one of the ideas that we wanted to sort of propose here is to see if we can delegate to the driver to give the driver both storage classes and let the driver decide if it's compatible or not.
Michelle, I forgot how we're handling right now. Are we actually block this? Do we check?
Yeah, right now for cloning, we actually disallow it. There's an error given by the external provisioner. But I was also thinking, snapshots has a similar issue too, but I think for snapshots, we actually allow it.
Because we don't really, we don't have the original subclass in the snapshot case, right? So we can't check, so we didn't check that, Yeah, I think this makes sense to allow it, but just trying to figure out what are the problems.
Yeah, I think one case that John originally came up with before was like, if the FS type is different and incompatible, that might be like a scenario. So I guess if we relax the check, then what would happen is basically your target, your new PDC might have a different FS type than what the storage class indicated. That could be one issue that arises. And I think there isn't really a great way for a driver to actually check the FS type at the time of cloning either.
The driver has knowledge of the original FS
type?
The
FS type is actually in the
storage class?
FS type is actually in the PD object. Okay. But I think when we do cloning, I don't think we actually look into the PV object, and we don't pass it down to the driver either. I think we only pass the volume ID down to the driver.
Okay.
So I think that's just one of the possibilities of issues that could happen if we open it up. But I guess at the same time, we currently haven't opened up for snapshots, and so far people aren't complaining about it. It could also be just sort of like potentially a documentation thing where we say, hey, there are some parameters like FS type that may not be compatible if you have a different storage class.
Could we wire up external provisioner to grab the FS type from the PV and pass that through and let
Yeah,
the driver do validation?
I mean, yeah, so like the FS type was just one example, but like there could be other things. I think that's the more like as the general problem, we could solve the FS type one specifically.
Got it.
So there are basically multiple parameters that we're not repassing. The original parameters from the origin PV we're not repassing at cloning time, right? So do we want to pass them all in now, or is that?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, one of the ideas is like when we do create volume, in addition to giving the volume ID, should we also pass down more things?
Like the parameters from the original.
From the PV spec, from the parameters from the PV spec or something like that.
Yeah.
Question is if there is anything useful, because there is not much useful in PV, and the storage class that was used to provision the PV could be quite different from the storage class that's in the API server at the time of cloning.
Yeah, that's why I think the storage class we might not be able to pass down, since the original storage class could have changed, but like the PV spec, like the volume attributes in the PV spec.
Yeah, that we could do if we really wanted.
What if we just do not validate without like a snapshot? What's the worst case?
It might fail. The worst case is might fail. So
it can fail. Yeah,
I think that's okay if it fails.
Yeah.
I guess I think the concern is if it passes, but it's actually different. Like if it passes and like the FS type is different, or there's some other parameter that was set in the storage class that wasn't honored, I think that's the more concern.
Yeah, so because checking the may be very complicated, but it's up to the driver.
Yeah, I mean, we could say, you know, it's, well, like, I think I was already sort of moving towards the idea that it should be the responsibility of the driver to check that the source and the targets are compatible. But I think the main problem is there are some parameters that may be difficult for the driver to check, such as the FS type. But I guess I don't know what else besides FS type. That's like the main thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, it seems like one of those things where, yeah, we should probably loosen this a little bit. The edge cases are definitely there. For the ones that we're aware of, we can try working around it. And the rest of it is like, hey, CSI driver vendor, please be careful here. And as we discover new, I think, areas, we can surface it here in the SIG and make sure folks are handling it correctly. But it seems like the benefit outweighs the cons in this case. Neither is perfect or ideal, but in this case, I think there's a benefit to loosening up the requirement here. Anyone disagree? Okay, anything else on this topic? Okay, I'm going to write down a conclusion here, which is okay to loosen restriction. Let's see if we can do workarounds for known issues, document potential unknown issues, and proactively share any new workarounds in this forum as they are discovered. All right, with that, I think that's the last topic for today. We've got about 12 minutes left in the day, so I'll give you time back. Thank you, everyone. Oh, sorry, does someone have something?
Yeah, so this is Ritesh. I couldn't add a topic to the doc since I didn't have a permission. So if we have time, I have a topic that maybe I can bring in for discussion here.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, so this is on a particular use case that I think it doesn't exist or I might be missing. So this is regarding storage with a particular access mode read write once. So just to explain the scenario, so I'm trying to get all pods on the same node, access to same storage on the node. But the problem arises if, say, I had to scale the pod to a multiple node, and the new node wouldn't be attached. The new storage wouldn't be attached to the new node because that PV is already attached to the existing node, and it wouldn't spin up one more storage to attach to the new node. So as far as I see currently, there exists a workflow where there could be one storage per deployment, or each pod could have its own volume through generic ephemeral volume, but there isn't something where every node could have a volume, all pods on the node could share the same volume, if that makes sense.
So I want to make sure I understand your use case. So ideally what you want is all the pods that live on a given node share some sort of volume that is not ephemeral, it's persistent.
Right.
And every time a new node is added, a new pod that lands there, effectively a new volume is created on that node.
Right. That's
got it. Have you looked into local persistent volumes?
No. So the whole idea was to use pvcsi. I don't know if that the local persistent volume would work in that scenario. So currently EBS-CSI is set to read write once access mode. And we can't scale to more than one node with the current setup that we have.
I guess it sounds like the ask is to like dynamically provision the volume for every node that as pods scale to more nodes.
That's right. Yep.
Would something like a, I don't know, like a daemon set work better?
I tried that approach. I believe it doesn't.
I think what he needs is like a daemon set stateful set. Because with a daemon set, you're forced to specify a given volume, and that's going to share it across all the nodes.
Yeah.
And he needs something like a daemon set stateful set, which would give him a new volume per node. Yeah. I mean, you can always write a custom controller for this, Ritesh. It's a little bit of a weird edge case that you're encountering. It's not super complicated to write such a controller. Mm-hmm. Effectively, like you are creating like a daemon set, stateful set, and you could write a controller that does that and have your own CR for how to define that, and then create your own pods and wire them up to PVCs.
I know the ask for like a daemon stateful set has come up a couple times in the past. It might worth be bringing this up in SIG apps too. And I don't know if there might have been like old enhancement issues opened up in the past for this, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a good point. So it has been asked for before, and so if you wanna drive this, this could be a new effort.
So one thing, it's mentioned that new storage wouldn't attach to new node because it's already attached to existing node. So, but you are trying to provision new new PV. Why its new PV cannot attach to new node?
Yes.
I think, sorry, the challenge I think, Jing, is basically how does the new volume get provisioned when there's a new node? And how do you associate a new volume with a given node? All right, so imagine like GCEPD, you provision a volume, and how do you say that that volume will only be attached to pods on node A? And that if somebody adds in a node B, that we must spin up a new pvcsi volume for that. And any workload that gets scheduled to node B now should be using that second volume.
I have seen in the past some people do a workaround where they have a stateful set, but they basically have this like small controller on the side that scales the stateful set to the number of nodes in their cluster.
Ah.
So right now, if you just use stateful set and you have new node and you scale up the pod, and what's the behavior is that so it might land to the new node or might not.
Yeah, I think you're going to need like pod anti-affinity as well, right?
If you add that scheduling rule, right, and the pod new pod go to the new node, and the storage will also provision in this late binding.
Yeah, that could work. So yeah, that could be an easy workaround for you, Ritesh. Basically, use stateful sets, put a anti-affinity policy that ensures that the pods in the stateful set do not land on the same node. And then, like Michelle said, write a small controller that controls the number of replicas on that stateful set to be the number of nodes that you have on your cluster. And so that will, create, let's say, if you have 5 nodes, 5 different pods, and the pod anti-affinity policy can ensure that those pods do not land on the same node. And then when the volumes get provisioned, effectively you end up with 1 volume per node. Now, I think the challenge you'll have from that point is if you have any subsequent pods that are created on those nodes, how do you ensure that they attach the volume that is created for that node? And I think you can use a webhook, an admission webhook that's checks once a pod is scheduled what the correct volume should be for that node, and injects it into that pod. The webhook might be a little bit complicated, but the controller part might be easy.
Right. Yeah, I might have to try a few things, but I think stateful set, I did give it a thought, but it does change some of the mechanism of the deployment, because currently I'm using deployment object, right? So stateful set is kind of no-go for some of the different design decisions that I had to make. So in being in the deployment object territory, I couldn't come up with some option unless, yeah, as you said, I could write a custom controller to attach volume every time to the node. spins up and somehow make pod access that particular volume.
Yeah, I think if you're going to stick with deployment object, then yeah, you don't have a lot of options.
Yeah. I don't know, as it was mentioned before, even with the daemon set, stateful set, I don't know if this needs more discussion, if we like.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's an interesting idea. So if you want to kind of lead this or put together a cap or even just brainstorm some ideas, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I can probably start with cap on maybe, yeah, I can bring the cap here and start some discussion on the cap itself. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So I'll write down a conclusion here. Ritesh will put together a daemon set, stateful set cap, and bring it to the SIG. All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns about this topic? All right. If there's nothing else, we'll call it a day. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.